Every golfer, at some point, has been asked the same question by a partner, a friend, a confused family member watching them leave the house at 6 in the morning with a bag full of metal sticks. The question is always some version of, why? Why do you keep going back? Why do you spend that much money, that much time, that much emotional energy on something that makes you so visibly frustrated? And here's the thing, most golfers can't fully answer it. They smile, they shrug, they say something like, "You'd have to try it," which is honestly not very helpful. So that's what today is. Today, I want to actually answer that question. Because golf has this reputation, and look, it's not entirely unfair, of being slow, expensive, and exclusive. A game for a certain kind of person in a certain kind of sweater. And if that's your only impression of it, I completely understand why it doesn't appeal. But that impression is like judging an entire ocean by the parking lot outside it. What's actually happening inside golf, beneath the surface, underneath the scorecards and the dress codes and the frustrating vocabulary, is something much older and much stranger and much more human than most people realize. Golf is one of the only sports in the world where you compete almost entirely against yourself. Think about that for a second. In tennis, you have an opponent across the net. In football, you have 11 people trying to stop you. In golf, the course doesn't care. The wind doesn't care. Par doesn't care. There's nobody trying to beat you except the version of yourself that showed up that day. And that's either a beautiful thing or a terrifying thing, depending on who you are. Most people who fall in love with golf find that it starts as terrifying and slowly, over time, becomes the most honest kind of beautiful. Here's something that takes people by surprise. Golf is a game that cannot be faked. And I mean that in a really specific way. Picture someone walking into a boardroom and performing confidence, performing competence, performing whatever version of themselves they've decided to show the world that day. Golf strips all of that away. Because when you are standing alone on a fairway, with a club in your hand and a shot you need to hit, there is nowhere to hide. Your anxiety shows up in your grip. Your impatience shows up in your backswing. Your ego shows up in your club selection. The game reads you like a book. And a lot of people find that deeply uncomfortable at first. And then, strangely, deeply liberating. Because there is something quietly remarkable about a space where pretending simply doesn't work. And then there's the place itself. This is something I think gets genuinely underestimated when people talk about golf. A golf course is not just a venue. It's a landscape that has been shaped, sometimes over centuries, to be walked through slowly, on foot, with time to look. Most rounds take between 3 and 5 hours. You walk somewhere between 5 and 8 kilometers. You pass through trees and open sky, over small bridges, along water, through silence. The world outside the course, with its notifications and noise and constant urgency, doesn't follow you in. And in an era where almost nowhere offers that anymore, a golf course is one of the last places where slow is not only acceptable, it's the whole point. Research on nature exposure and mental well-being consistently shows that time spent in green, natural environments reduces cortisol, improves mood, and resets attention. Golfers have known this for centuries. They just never had the science to explain why they felt better after 18 holes, even when they played terribly. But here's the part that really gets people. The single shot. The one moment that, if you ask any golfer in the world, is why they keep coming back. There is a shot in golf that feels like nothing else in sport. When the timing is exactly right, when the body moves the way it's supposed to, when the face of the club meets the ball at precisely the right angle. The ball doesn't feel struck. It feels released. There's almost no sensation in your hands at all. Just this soft, clean, perfect contact. And then the ball is just gone. Rising, curving gently, landing exactly where you imagined it. That feeling, and most beginners might experience it exactly once in their first 20 sessions, is the most addictive thing in golf. Not because it happens all the time, because it almost never does. And yet you know it's possible because you felt it once. And you will spend entire seasons trying to feel it again. That one shot is the hook that nobody warns you about. There's a psychological concept called the variable reward schedule. It's the same principle behind why certain games and apps are so hard to put down. Unpredictable rewards, delivered occasionally, are neurologically more compelling than consistent ones. Golf is essentially a perfect, naturally occurring version of this. You can play 18 holes and hit one transcendent shot. And that one shot makes every frustrating one feel worth it. It's irrational and it's real, and it's been pulling people back to the course for over 500 years. And then, underneath all of this, there is something about golf that I find genuinely moving, and it's harder to put into words than the rest. Golf is a game that teaches you things about yourself slowly. Not in a single dramatic moment, but over years, over seasons, over thousands of rounds. It teaches you how you handle failure, because you will fail constantly, even when you're good. It teaches you patience, not as a virtue you perform, but as a skill you earn. It shows you the difference between trying harder and trying differently. It humbles people who need humbling, and rewards people who stay curious. And it does all of this while asking you to be outside, moving your body, in the most beautiful landscapes humans have ever thought to build. So when someone asks a golfer why do you keep going back? The honest answer is something like this. Because the course shows me something true about who I am that day. And being in that kind of honest conversation with yourself in a place that beautiful is something you don't easily find anywhere else. That's what this channel is about. Not technique, not how to swing, but why this game, out of everything in the world, gets into people the way it does. Why it has been played for 5 centuries and shows no signs of loosening its grip. Why people who've never touched a club sometimes watch someone hit a perfect iron shot and feel something they can't quite name. I'm Kora, and I am so glad you're here, because golf is a story that deserves to be told properly, and we are just getting started.